Some men chase money, others chase legacy. John Atkins is chasing lightning in a jar. Out of the mountains where moonshine was once whispered in fear, he built Maw's Mountain Moonshine. A brand from blood, grit, and the kind of tradition you don't find in boardrooms. This isn't just liquor. It's rebellion, it's survival, and it's family. Today we're going deep into the man who turned backwoods shine into a mountain movement. On this episode of Tactical Tequila Podcast with your host, Matt Wilson. If you enjoy the show, hit the like button, subscribe, and share it to your social media platforms. Thanks for tuning in and enjoy the show. Welcome back, everyone. Matt with Tactical Tequila Podcast here. And on tonight's show, we have a great show planned. I have John Atkins of Maw's Mountain Moonshine out of Florida on the podcast tonight. John and his wife, Jo, aren't just making moonshine. They're trapping lightning in a jar. What was once outlawed in the shadows, he dragged into the spotlight. Maw's Mountain Moonshine isn't just a drink. It's a rebellion bottled, tradition reborn, and grit you can taste. John, welcome to the show. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Matt. Anytime.
So just to kind of dive into things, for those that aren't too familiar with moonshine, moonshine has been around since back in the Prohibition days. Bootleggers would take trucks and cars and they would hide their stash and they would travel across state lines in order to sell their liquor.
Yeah. Some still do.
So what got you into moonshining?
Still that I'm a sixth generation moonshiner. It's been in the family longer than I can remember.
Okay. What was the moment that you knew you had to bring moonshine into the light and make it your business?
I always kind of did it as a hobby. And one time I had some guys that were picture hillbillies in your mind. That's what they were. And they told me that I made some of the best liquor they'd ever drank. So I got the idea. Let's move forward with it and see where we can go.
Well, I can tell you, since you have created Maw's Mountain Moonshine, this is the first time I'm actually having the legitimate Maw's Mountain Moonshine. I sampled what you had some many moons ago. I can tell you right now, I'm trying the blueberry.
Mm-hmm.
The blueberry muffin, and it's a 40 proof, 20% alcohol. And I can tell you that this is a sleeper.
Oh yeah, it'll put you to sleep quick.
This will get you. It is very delicious, very tasty. If you've never tried moonshine, where would you recommend they start?
I'd start with something like the blueberry. It's a lower proof, so it's a little easier to drink. Not saying that the 100 proof isn't, but I'd start with that. Work your way up. Because if you ever come into one of our stores, you do a taste test. That's where you start. You'll start at the 40 proof blueberry, and then you work your way all the way up to the 100 proof white lightning.
And when you do a tasting inside the store,
mm-hmm.
how many flavors do you get?
You get 9.
Okay. And do you use these type of glasses? What kind of glasses do you use?
We use like communion cups. I hate to say it like that, and the Catholics are going to probably look down on me, but that's exactly what we use.
Was Maw's Mountain Moonshine always born out of tradition, rebellion, or both?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who or what, if it wasn't someone, first put the fire into you and to turn backwoods shine into the brand?
It was Jo. Yeah, we was it actually started, we was all by a pool, and we was talking about it, and Victoria, my daughter, she's always been a manager out back. She worked at Rainforest Cafe, been around, And I said at the pool one day, and I said, we go legit. Would you want to go with us? And she said, yeah, I'd quit my job. And that's where it started. We
That's amazing.
got attorneys involved, and next thing we know, we're finding buildings and making moonshine.
That's amazing. So, how many stills do you have in your 2 locations?
The one location is too small for a still, so it's just a store. Um, the newer location, which just opened in January, we have 3 stills. But we do have another still in a warehouses where we make the majority of our liquor. All the White Lightning is made out of our new new Old Town Kissimmee store.
Okay. And when you first started it, was it to honor the past or was it to rewrite the rules completely?
Yeah, it started to just keeping the tradition alive. You know, me doing it, hopefully showing my boys and letting them do it. And the tradition kind of turned into, us getting in the spotlight and getting it out there.
When it comes to tequila, because podcast is primarily tequila, can you talk a little bit about the distillation process for moonshine?
It's probably basically the same as tequila. You ferment a product, you distill it, and it comes out the other side, the liquor you want. So it's almost all the same, no matter if you're making bourbon, gin, tequila. It's all processed pretty much the same way.
Does it go through a second distillation as tequila does, or is it just one distillation?
Well, actually, our still does it. We do two because what we do is we got one still we strip it out of, and it actually goes through what they call a 3-time distillation, and then we put it in another still and then we run it through, and it goes. That one does it a second time, so it's almost 5 times distilled.
Okay. What's the highest percentage that you make?
Well, I mean, when we're making it, it comes out about 180, and we we cut it down because we're not running tractors, we're running people.
Right. When you were first told people wanted you to go legit with the moonshine, when you told them that you were going to go legit, did they laugh about it? Did they doubt you, or did they rally behind you?
No, because they pretty much seen me do everything or at least try to do everything I say I would or could. But with the laws and stuff, everybody thought it just wasn't ever going to go anywhere. Because of prohibition, moonshine is still kind of a taboo liquor. It's still not, it's still not as easy to become a moonshine distiller as it is a craft whiskey distiller or bourbon distiller. That they are a little more loose on the laws on those.
And what part of the story makes Mala Shine different than from the flood of craft spirits flooding the shelves today?
Because very few of those guys are generational. They're all either 1 or 2, possibly some of them are not even. They just had money to start. I'm actually a 6th generation moonshiner.
And see, with a lot of tequila brands, it's the same way. It's multi-generational, from great grandfathers all the way down to the grandson,
Yeah.
of one of the owners or master distillers. You even have some brands now that are starting up that are making it multi-generational, getting ready for their children to take over.
Right. Yeah, so that's kind of what we want to do. We want to create a legacy, not just not just a brand.
What's the hardest mountain you've had to climb to get the business off the ground, literally and figuratively?
Um, Building the second store, the hurdles we had to climb over through permitting to get the store open. That was the worst hurdle we've ever had to get over.
And is that one's in Kissimmee or that one's in Mount
That
Dora?
was the Kissimmee. Mount Dora was fairly easy. Kissimmee was not.
And can you kind of just go into the struggles that you had with the permitting?
It was just because the moonshine is still so new. They really didn't know what laws to hold us by. They kept saying we needed this, but we didn't. So they kept trying to rewrite the book, and figure it out as they went along, and it just ended up we got caught in the crossfires of it. So I don't blame them. It's just nobody really knew how to. We was the first. We're the distillery in Osceola County, a moonshine distillery. So nobody really knew what to do about it.
How many times, if it was even just one time, did you almost just throw in the towel and just say, fuck it?
There was never none. I was too deep monetarily. There was no exit plan. It was just head down, keep going.
Did you ever risk your reputation, relationships, and the savings to keep it alive?
No, I mean the relationships. Everybody was on board, so that wasn't a problem. Uh, I guess the money was the only thing that really, because being held up for so many months with permitting and trying to get in the building, we just had to keep just paying rent on a place we wasn't bringing money out of. So yeah, it was tough. The money was the worst part.
Have you ever had a rock bottom moment and had to pull yourself out?
Yeah, we thought at the end of when we finally got open right before, we was thinking we wasn't going to it wasn't going to happen anymore.
What did you have to sacrifice the most? Money, time, or sleep in building the
All
brand?
three, all three, and not necessarily in that order. Yeah, I lost a lot of
Have-
sleep, lost a lot of money, and a lot of time.
well, in talking about losing sleep, has there ever been a night where you thought it would just collapse?
Yeah, there was a lot of nights because we just the future was so unsure. Us waiting on permitting in the county to finally figure out what we could do and what we can't do. We never knew. Eventually we was going around the money, so it had to. It was at a breaking point. It either had to go or it wasn't.
And how did you come up with the name Ma's Mountain Moonshine?
Because the great grandma was kind of a moonshiner. It all come from that direction. So it was just kind of keeping her legacy alive, and and her dads before her.
Were there any stories of Ma that inspired you to build the brand specifically?
Not really. It was just kind of a tribute to her.
Okay. How do you balance respecting the tradition and still pushing the boundaries?
Um, I'm not sure what I can say about that. And I go to jail. No, I mean the boundaries. Once you go legal, there's really no more boundaries. You just got to, pretty much uh, do what the do what the law says. They keep a close eye on you. They don't allow you to go outside the lines.
Do you think it's a closer eye than like a bourbon or a whiskey distillation?
It seems so. They're pretty watchful. But
What would
I
you
guess everybody in the distillation gets the audits that we get. But same time, we're still kind of taboo. We're not whiskey. We're moonshine.
Is there a lot of federal oversight with moonshine as opposed to another spirit?
I mean, I really can't speak for the other spirits because I don't know. But we got a lot of oversight. We get visits, audits. They go through our books. Yeah, they keep pretty close eye on us.
What's one lesson from the old ways that you refuse to modernize in making moonshine?
Um, that I refuse. Um, really none. I've conformed like I had to. There's things they allow us to do that and don't allow us to do, and you just got to follow the rules, or you just won't be in business. So they've kept me pretty. I mean, I guess keeping it in a jar is the one I refuse to give up on.
How many flavors do you have currently?
18, 19 maybe, because we have
And what
seasonal flavors that come in and out, so it's hard to keep a pinpoint. We have new ones coming out all the time, so it's hard to get an exact number.
and what's your favorite?
I like the peach and the blueberry, but
I
then I
can tell
like
you
cotton candy.
the
Tell
blueberry's
you,
phenomenal.
well, I tell you a trick. Take it, breathe, take the shot, and breathe in, and as you breathe out, breathe through your nose and your mouth, and then you'll taste the muffin on the backside.
Wow.
Moonshine magic.
That I'm telling you, that is a real sleeper. Like, you could sit here and sip on this all night long. It's got the blueberry sweetness, and like you said, on the back end, it's got the muffin. A little bit of, like, I can get a little bit of brown sugar on it, I feel. But yeah, the blueberry hits like real hard on it.
Yeah. The peaches like it. Almost all of our flavors have that back flavor. Peaches cobbler. So when you take the shot, you breathe in, you taste the peach, and as you breathe out slowly, you taste the cobbler on the backside.
I would we'll have to talk offline, but I got to know your secret on how you get the back end flavor on it.
I think I can share it with you.
Do you feel like you're carrying a torch or starting the fire on your own?
Both. I'm carrying the torch of ancestors behind me, but I'm carrying the torch for my kinfolk ahead of me.
A little bit ago, we talked about what it was starting the business. What's been tougher, making shine or breaking into the market?
Breaking into the market. Until a few years ago, it seemed like it wasn't even going to be an option because the laws were so strict that if you came into my store, I was only allowed to sell you 6 jars per year. Um, so I'd have to see a lot of people
Wow.
if that had enough moonshine. But let's see, 3 years ago, the DeSantis passed a law that you could have as much as you wanted, and that we could mix cocktails using our liquor at our bar without having a liquor license. So that opened the door up a lot.
That seems a little asinine, if you ask me, as far as trying to regulate you guys that much.
Yeah. Well, it's relaxed a lot. Like I said, they've over the last few years, it's kind of relaxed a good bit. I think they're starting to see it's just a liquor. It's not anything different. It's the same as anybody else's. It all comes out the same. It all bottled the same. It's all the same. It's
Well,
just
and
a math.
you figure that they would realize this, making the regulations that you can only have it to distilled down to a certain proof in
Hmm.
order to sell it, in the States. The way that that's regulated, you would think that, they wouldn't have as much issue with it. And, if they continuously come in and, check things and check the process and the books and everything, you would think that it would be different than that.
Yeah. Well, it's been a learning curve. Because the general person doesn't know anything about moonshine. What they see on TV, it was bad. It was, it was, it was like drug dealers. It was boxed in the back of cars and shipped places, and so they see it as still that sort of thing. But it's getting more and more mainstream. You got the big Gatlinburg guys. They've got big shops, and you got little guys like me popping up around. So they're starting to see it's nothing really but just another liquor in a different jar.
So are you guys only in Florida or do you distribute out?
We're in Florida only now, but in a few weeks we are distributing nationwide. We'll ship it to a warehouse in Washington D.C., and from there you'll be able to go on our website, order what you want, and they'll ship it anywhere in the country. So that's coming live in
Amazing.
a couple weeks. So go to our website, ballsmountainmoonshine.com, and that's where you start ordering.
I I look forward to it. I've been hounding you for over a year now since you were trying to get the or the second location up and running. I wanted you to send me some.
Well, it is illegal to send. That's why I had to bring it to you personally.
This is true.
Well, it won't be illegal in a couple weeks. I'll be able to get as much to you as you want.
So, how do you stand toe to toe with massive liquor brands and those other moonshine distilleries that are already legit and up and running?
Um, I'm in a different area, so I'm not in the big box stores, so I'm not competing with them there. They're not in my little location, so they're not competing with me there. I think once we get up and running, and maybe we start getting into the stores, it might be a different story. But uh, I would stack my liquor against theirs any day of the week. So I think our flavors and our liquor alone will get us notoriety. I think we got a pretty good product.
Okay. And have you faced pushback from regulators and competitors or even locals? I mean, you kind of hinted on it a little bit as far as the permitting and things like that, but have you faced anything from the locals?
No, there's really no other moonshine around me, so there's nobody really to push back. You know, there's a couple craft bourbon guys, but they're not doing what I do, so they have nothing to push back, either bourbon or moonshine. So you know, it's us being a craft thing. We get a lot of traffic. Everybody wants to try it, and then they like it after they try it.
That's half the battle right there is getting a
Yeah.
person not only to try it, but to like it after they try it.
Well, I mean, you're always going to get the one or two that say it tastes like gasoline and they can't stand it. But I tell them I
But
remember the first time I started drinking.
and me, like I'm a high proof or a still strength tequila drinker. So
Mm.
even the White Lightning, it's got a phenomenal flavor to it. For lack of better words, it's very smooth. In the tequila realm of things, if a tequila is smooth, it usually means that there's additives to it,
Mhm.
you know. Um, but having a robust and a complexity to the flavor,
Yeah.
I think adds to any spirit really. But tequila in itself, that's how tequila should taste. Is it should be complex. It should be full of flavor. And
Mhm.
I get a lot of flavor in the White Lightning, and you really don't get the burn that you would think that you would get on Moonshine.
Yeah, especially coming from 100 proof liquor. That's some fire behind that. Yeah, you taste the 80 proof vodka and it sets you on fire. So I think we're doing a pretty good job of what we're making.
And I mean, I have tequilas that are 110.
Mhm.
I've made a 55.57% tequila once. So when it comes to high proofs like that, that's just my jam, and I
Yeah.
could honestly sit here and sip this one as well all day.
Well, we do have a 120. We're going to call it Black Thunder coming out pretty soon.
I'm gonna have to get some of that.
Yeah. But we had it coming out of the still at 180. We thought let's try it. We was shocked at still how smooth it was even at 180 proof. It was still drinkable. I was like, wow, that's unheard of.
As it's still being drinkable, are you only having one or two, or
Not for the faint of heart. It don't take much of 180 to get you going.
do you think authenticity still matters, or do you think that marketing is the king when it comes to moonshine?
It's kind of a hand in hand. I mean, you got to have a good product, but then you got to have good advertising as well. If nobody knows about it, it doesn't matter. And if they know about it and it's not any good, it doesn't matter. So you got to have both. Um, so I think the
And
authenticity really, oh, because of what it is, you have to have that involved. I mean, it's got to be authentic.
with that, when someone first picks up a jar of Mall's Mountain Moonshine, what do you want running through their head before the first sip?
I want them thinking this is probably going to taste like gasoline and it's going to burn. And then when they take the shot, they're like, wow, that really didn't hurt. And it was really good. So I want them to expect that it's really going to be painful when it's not.
What would you say the wildest story you have from the early days of making or selling Shine is?
Well, I never sold it. I always did it just as friends and family. Because it's highly illegal. You know, that's I really don't know how much I really should say, but uh, the first time I had a bunch of guys taste it, like I said, the hillbilly guys, and they told me how good it was. I knew at that point that I was validated.
And it's just an off the wall question. So the TV show Moonshiners,
Yeah.
how do you feel that represents the moonshine legacy? And also, do you feel like that's just more Hollywood theatrics?
I think it does represent it fairly well. Of course, it's got some theatrics involved because everybody knows who these guys are, so there's no way they're going to be able to do it illegally and not get caught. So it's but it does represent it. That's the way it is, and probably definitely how it was. They were hiding it in places and bringing it in trucks and back seats and hiding it and running it and doing it at night. So it represents it well.
Have you ever feared the law, or do you thrive on walking that edge?
No, I was feared. Crossing a bunch of state lines with it, yeah, makes you're definitely scared.
When doubt creeps in, what keeps you from folding?
I don't doubt. I don't. I'm not. I don't stress. I don't worry, and I don't doubt. I don't doubt. I just keep going.
Do you see yourself more of a craftsman, a hustler, or a legacy builder, or all three?
You got to be all three. You got to get
Okay,
out and hustle, and you got to keep your craft, and then you got to do them all. You got to do all three.
fair enough. If you lost everything tomorrow, would you still make shine in the mountains just yourself?
Well, we don't have many mountains in Florida, but I'd definitely be in the woods.
Fair enough. What do you want? What would you want Maw's Mountain Moonshine to mean long after you're gone?
um, I would hope that they keep the same standards and the same vision that we have, just so it can continue and still be. I don't want them to ever sell out and do it a cheaper way. Just continue to do it the way we do it, and hope it goes on.
And do you find from your sons that they're ready to continue on that legacy?
Yeah, I think they will. Yeah.
So I'm going to hit you with a few rapid fire questions. If moonshine is lightning in a jar, what's the first strike people feel when they taste white lightning?
Some people do feel the burn. So that'd be your first one.
Okay.
Then if you keep going, the second one's going to be when you hit the floor.
What's wilder, the nights in the backwoods or the battles in the boardroom?
The backwoods. I kind of stay
If
out of the
you
boardroom. I let them keep it.
if you had to choose break the law or break tradition, which way are you leaning?
The law. Gotta stay the same.
Right? What's the grittiest truth about moonshine that the industry doesn't want people to know?
I don't think there's any today. I think back in the old days, it was just, some of the murder and things that probably went in behind the scenes. That would have been the gritty, dirty stuff.
If Maw's moonshine was a weapon, what would it be and why?
It's an atomic bomb because it
I
will
love,
love.
love that. Where can everyone find you on social media?
You can find us Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, um, website, Google, Yelp, just about anywhere.
And it's just Maw's Mountain Moonshine?
Yep, mallsmountainmoonshine.com will take you to our website, and the other ones may be abbreviated like Malls MTN Moonshine. But if you go on any of them, just type in Mall's Moonshine. I think we pop up about anywhere you go.
And if there was one piece of advice for someone who wanted to break into the moonshine legitimate side of things, what piece of advice would you give them?
Go into bourbon. Save yourself a lot of headache.
Well, John, I appreciate your time and I thank you. I look forward to actually coming down to Florida and visiting with you and getting to see what you got operation wise for your moonshine distilling operations. If you're ever in Vegas, you're always welcome. Love to have you.
We do plan on making a trip out soon. So, yeah, we'll definitely come look you up.
All right, then. All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Have a good night.
Good night, bud.